Well, good evening. Welcome back to another edition of Brothers-in-law. Uh, for those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Corey Taylor. I'm a former Virginia State Trooper, and I'm with my best friend, Mr. Michael Bradley, who's also a former retired police officer for 26 years out of Pleasanton, California. And we'd like to welcome you to our show this evening. We got a good video lined up here for you to break down to see whether or not the officer acted as a reasonable officer should be acting during a call to service. Before we get going into the show, I'd like for everyone, if you could just take a few minutes out your day tomorrow and uplift my daughter in prayer. She lost her boyfriend over the weekend, last weekend, and she's got two kids, our grandchildren. So she needs all your prayer and well wishes. So keep her uplifted in prayer for us, asking God to give her strength and wisdom to be able to get through this moment in time for her. She's gonna need it. So I greatly appreciate that, you guys. So Mike, hey, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Good to be back. Good to be back. We got a pretty good show lined up here, and this is
Go ahead and break it down.
This is one where it's happened in Florida, and this was this last year, something like that. I think it was last year, or maybe a couple of years ago. At any rate, it was in Florida where a police officer was patrolling a neighborhood and saw a kid walk into the back of a residence, and he thought that was suspicious, so he went to investigate, and he ends up contacting this kid in the back of the house. So we're gonna look at it from there. Reasonable call for service or reasonable thing for an officer to do to check out something like that. If you patrol in a neighborhood and you see a kid, kind of standing around a property that's in the neighborhood, and then he walks to the back of the house, you might follow him back there to see, just to make sure, is he a resident of the house? Does he have permission to be on the property? Basic, simple stuff as a police officer you'd want to do if you saw something like that. You're not going to just automatically assume that, oh, he's supposed to be there, so I'm not going to worry about it. Because if he is a burglar or something, or worse, and he's going in the back of somebody's property, then you want to at least check that out. So that's what happens here. That's how this is set up a little bit, the way I understand it. Is that the way you understand it, Corey, how this all unfolded?
Yeah, that's exactly how I read the news article. What happened?
Okay.
I believe it took place back in June.
Okay.
Out of Fort Myers, Fort Myers, Florida, and so a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I think there's blame on both sides, but we'll break it down and we'll give you our insight on it as usual, and take it from there.
There we go.
Oh, hold on, let's see.
Hey, Tone, I appreciate you joining us. I see you on here.
Oh, you know what? I'm about to mess this mug up again, dog. Here we go. It's a short video too, so
okay.
A Florida state trooper tasing a 16-year-old boy who was standing outside his girlfriend's home. CBS's Manuel Bojorquez is following the case.
I didn't do nothing. This surveillance video shows 16-year-old Jack Rodeman outside his girlfriend's back door last week as a Florida state trooper approaches him with his taser drawn. Moments later, the trooper tases him and he falls hard. Christina Rodeman is Jack's mother.
I don't feel like my son deserved that.
Put your hands behind his mouth. I'm going to do it again.
Some people would ask, if he complied, then it wouldn't have escalated.
Probably. And I agree. He should have dropped his phone. He's a good kid, but he's defiant with the law enforcement a little bit.
Rodeman says she's outraged the trooper repeatedly tased her son while he was on the ground writhing in pain.
I just think he should have called for somebody else for backup. But I mean, his life wasn't at risk. My son wasn't fighting him. I mean, Jack looked totally calm.
You don't feel your son was a threat?
Absolutely not a threat.
The trooper said he followed the biracial teen into the backyard because he looked suspicious and tased him when he refused to follow his commands to turn around and put his hands behind his back.
You think you can do exactly what you want to do. No, you can't. I'm sorry.
I just feel like something should be done. He shouldn't have done that to my kid. I mean, his girlfriend's traumatized, the mom's traumatized, I'm traumatized.
How's he doing?
He's affected a lot of people. I don't know.
Rodeman remains at a juvenile detention center facing multiple charges, including resisting arrest and possession of marijuana. He was on probation. The trooper involved was named Investigator of the Year last March. The Florida Highway Patrol says an administrative review of this incident is ongoing. Nora?
Neighbor Horkis, thank you. And we have some disturbing
Okay.
So
Hey, Bolin, I see you on here. What's up? What's going on? Appreciate you joining us. Good.
yeah,
to see
welcome.
you. Yeah.
So my first question is,
Little bit to unpack.
is it all right? Yeah, is it all right to follow somebody? Does that make them suspicious?
Yeah, now that I know what you mean. Does that alone?
Well, and you just said it too in your opening statement. You know how the officer came into contact.
But you know what, Corey? It can be suspicious, but I would like to have a little bit more circumstances to support it than just I saw this guy walking in the backyard. You know what I'm saying? Maybe this officer was patrolling that area in the neighborhood. This is the things that we don't know. We don't know all the details of what was in this officer's mind as to why he felt it was suspicious that this kid was walking to the back of the property. Now, that depends on the officer.
Right.
Some officers might look at that action and automatically think that that's suspicious enough to try to make contact, which at that point, you know what? If an officer was cruising through my neighborhood and he saw someone walking towards the back of my house, I wouldn't necessarily be upset if he decided to get out of his patrol vehicle and try to make contact with this person that's walking to the back. We don't know what kind of details he knows about this neighborhood. We don't know if he knows the residents of this neighborhood. And, you know, maybe a lot of times some officers will know residents of the neighborhood and know whether or not they should be home or not. And maybe he didn't recognize this kid as belonging to that house. And just to be, you know, on the safe side, he wanted to check this kid out who was walking to the back of the house, you know, instead of going through the front door like the residents normally would.
Right. So my thing is, one, we never know enough information. All right. So one, this was a state trooper. This was not a local PD. So the question is, you know, what is a state trooper doing, you know, in that neighborhood doing this on this type of or rendering this type of service, you know, suspicious person? Well, my question would be, how do you know he didn't live in that neighborhood and he never seen this kid in that neighborhood before? Now, it also said too that the boy, the teenager, that was his girlfriend's house, and they said that he was welcome over there, you know, anytime he wanted. He could come over to the house. And the officer didn't know who was at that residence at the time. So, you know, I don't know how it is in Florida, but here in our state, you know, troopers don't have jurisdiction. The whole state is our jurisdiction. So if I see suspicious activity happening behind Walmart and I'm just so happen to doing, you know, a loop around Walmart because, you know, I know it's a high crime area and I'm just, you know, helping out the local PD guys, guess what? I can engage in that. I have no jurisdiction, so I can interact in any way I feel necessary if need be. I'm not sure if that's the case in Florida. I don't know. Based on what we're seeing here, I would assume that um, they have no jurisdiction. He recognized something, and he wanted to follow up on, question the guy. There's nothing wrong with, hey, asking questions, making sure he lives there, because again, like we've said in other videos, if the officer doesn't respond or act on it, then this young teenager goes and breaks into that house, and somebody gets hurt or killed, and the officer, comes to find out that the officer was in that area and possibly came across that individual and did nothing. Now the officer is going to be, held responsible. So
And Jim Bolin makes a good comment. Maybe he could have done like a consensual contact. Nothing
sure,
wrong with that either. Consensual contact.
Sure.
And just for the clarification for our viewers, when you say no jurisdiction, what you mean is that officer isn't contained to a specific area.
Right.
He can go anywhere and take action anywhere. So there's no boundaries for that trooper.
Right.
But I see what you're saying. I think a lot of people are going to look at I think most citizens will look at the fact that if all you got is you saw this kid walk into the backyard of a home and you choose to stop and detain him,
Mm-hmm.
is it reasonable for somebody to think that's suspicious? Well, if you break it down,
I think you froze up. Mike. So back to what he was saying as he gets himself unfroze here,
break it down. Okay, we back.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead and repeat. Yeah, I got you.
Okay, a little bit of technical difficulties there. But anyway, we can break it down a little bit. It could start off as a consensual contact, and then at some point it can change into a detention. Okay, it could be a consensual contact just by the officer seeing this person walk into the back of a house and deciding to walk back there to follow him just to make sure he lives there. It's not normal for people to enter a home through the backyard necessarily. Most people are going to go through the front door. But in this case, this officer decided to check on that. I can't blame the officer for deciding to check on a person walking behind a house. There's nothing wrong with that. You can argue about whether or not that was suspicious enough. You see what I'm saying? But he chose to walk back there and try to contact this guy who was walking back behind there. So at least to that point, what do you think about that, Corey? Do you think that's arguable as to whether or not he felt it was, if somebody would feel that suspicious enough for him to take action like that?
I mean, again, we don't know what prompted him to be in that neighborhood. I'm just gonna assume him being a trooper, and most troopers, we don't do neighborhood patrolling like city cops do, where you're gonna find a state trooper up on the interstate unless they live in that neighborhood. So I'm just gonna assume that he lived in that neighborhood, probably didn't recognize a kid, and just said, "Hey, well, let me check and make sure everything good."
Yeah.
I know I would. I know I would if I try to recognize all the kids, in our neighborhood and say, okay, well, that vehicle, I've never seen that vehicle come through our neighborhood. I'm not gonna go follow the vehicle, but I just remember, well, I never seen that. And then, maybe it goes to a certain house. Okay, that's my boy's friend or something other down the street. Cool. You don't know. I'm gonna leave it at that. That he didn't recognize this kid in this neighborhood going to this particular house, and like James said, maybe to do a consensual contact, which maybe what he was planning on doing. But see, we miss so much. We miss all up to the point where he has the taser out. So when
Yeah,
people
yeah,
see
we missed
this,
that.
right, when people see this, they automatically thinking that, hey, he come out, taser blazing at this kid, and we don't know what led up to that point. What did he say to the young man? What did the young man say back to the police officer uh, to make him draw his taser?
Now, reason a good comment, Blackjack. I'm gonna answer that in just a minute. But okay, so like I said, we could discuss all day about whether or not it was suspicious enough for this officer to follow this kid back there. I personally don't think nothing wrong with it. Nothing, no
No,
laws broken, no rights violated up to this point, up to that point at least, right?
correct,
So
correct,
let's move a little forward. Now, if it were me and I decided to follow this guy or try to make contact with this guy who was in the back of the house, I am going to start off with a consensual contact, and I'm going to say, hey, I saw you walking back here. Do you live here? I'm Officer Bradley. I'm with the police department, whatever, or with the police department, whatever it is. And
right,
I'm going to try to establish that this guy has a right to be there. That's all. You see what I'm saying? And if I was a neighbor or resident in that area and the officers did stuff like that, I wouldn't have a problem with that because it's all for the good of trying to make sure ain't nobody breaking into your stuff, right?
right,
Residential burglaries do happen, and residential burglaries commonly happen in the daytime. Okay, when
hmm
people at work. Okay, so nothing unreasonable about what the officer did up to this point, as far as deciding to follow this guy in the back and make contact with him in the back of the house. Now, it all depends on how this guy is now going to react to me. If I get back there and clearly I'm explaining to you why I'm contacting you, and you are giving me an unreasonable or unnecessary response, like you ain't answering no questions, you in the back of the house, you ain't just going into the house as if you have a key, you just
right,
standing there.
right,
Okay, well, now my red flags are raising because you're not responding like a reasonable person would respond. The
right.
fact that you're 16, that doesn't play any role. And a 16-year-old can burglarize a house just like a 26-year-old can burglarize a house.
That's
A
right.
16-year-old can hurt an officer just like a 26-year-old can hurt an officer. So the fact that this is a juvenile doesn't come into play at this moment. What do you think of that?
Right. And I think too, now we got to look at the acronym of CALM, right? This is what it's all about. How do we handle ourselves when interacting with law enforcement? Well, let's remember the acronym of CALM, right? He recognized that the officer is trying to make contact with him, right? The officer, I'm sure, identified himself or who he was, and you know,
Hey,
trying to
Miss
establish.
Taylor, I see you, Mrs. Taylor.
Hey, mom. Trying to establish contact with them to start engaging in conversation. Now, remember the acronym CALM, right? Comply, right? Right there, we heard and seen in the video that the young man was not complying. And it was not, he didn't give any indication as if, he lived here or if he had business here
Yeah,
at the
we don't.
residence.
It don't even sound like he had even started to explain to the officer
Right,
that, hey, this is my girlfriend's house. I just
right.
came back here for whatever reason, or I normally come to the back door when she opens it, because she took a minute to come out
Yeah, she
before
did. She did.
while they were conversating. That girlfriend took a minute before she even came out.
Yeah, she
Uh,
did.
so that establishes the answer to Blackjack. That
Yeah,
consensual contact for me would have now turned into a detention because you're now showing me a reaction that raises a red flag that maybe I do need to see what in the world you're doing back here.
right.
You see what I'm
And,
saying?
and keep in mind, he doesn't know if he has any weapons on him. I do believe he was wearing a hoodie. Now, could this have been handled differently? Now, again, keep in mind, yeah, it would have been handled differently for me in my situation because at the time when I was with the department, we did not have tasers, right? So what were my options to use in this scenario, right? Well, I had my OC spray, and I had an asp, and I had my service weapon. Would I pull my service weapon out? Nah, I don't think at this point, no, because I couldn't see any signs of any visible weapons. Could I have pulled out my ass? I probably would have pulled it out, but I wouldn't have expanded it, right? Just use a little show. Hey, man, you might want to start listening to me, or you're not listening to my commands, or whatever case may be. And OC spray. So I had tools there to use if he would not have started complying. Now, when you're not doing that, when you're not complying, you're not answering questions, and you're not listening to what I'm trying to tell you, then my next step is to go hands-on with you, to put you in handcuffs and detain you, so that I can establish that you have reason to be here.
Yeah, you have a right to be there. You know, you're not somebody who's getting ready to break into this person's house.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? I think in the 16-year-old's mind, maybe because as a juvenile, he's just thinking he knows he is there to see his girlfriend, but for some reason, he maybe didn't feel like he had to explain that to the officer.
Now, remember what the mom said. He
is
has
typically defiant with police.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So he already had in his head what he was going to do, or how he was going to conduct himself with the officer. He was already going to be defiant, right? Because his past, and now we know he has a little bit of a criminal history, so that just adds to it. So I believe in that aspect he was wrong. Now we talk about the use of the taser. Now, like I said, I didn't carry a taser, so I probably would have went hands on with him and try to detain him that way, so I can figure out if this young man has a right to be here at these folks' residence. Now, first thing first is always safety, officer safety, and also safety of the citizen. I'm not sure the officer was thinking about that when he deployed that taser and the young man fell back. Would you have deployed your taser at that point, Mike?
I hear what you're saying. I think that depends on the individual officer. Now, we carry tasers. We could use the taser if somebody was not following our commands to do some movement or something, put your hands behind your back or something like that. We could use a taser, as long as as long as the guy wasn't on top of the roof where we use a taser and he fall down off the roof, you might have a problem. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that he fell down on the ground, yeah, that's good. The problem with that is he was by himself when he deployed that taser. Usually when you deploy a taser, the person deploys the taser, and while he's got that person locked up with the taser.
Wait a minute. So let me make sure I'm not misunderstanding what you're saying. When you say he hit the ground, fine. He hit that fire pit.
Yeah, he hit the fire pit. I see what you're saying. He hit something to where it could have hurt him.
Yeah.
And that's where what I'm saying is, if you have a taser, you can use it under a circumstance where somebody is not complying to what you're saying, and you're giving them orders, and they're trying to, either come walk towards you or something like that, or doing something that clearly shows that I'm not going to go with the program, and you're going to have to put hands on me. Yeah. If we get to the point where I got to put hands on you, if I have a taser, I might use a taser first so that I can lock your muscles up so you can't fight with me, and I can go ahead and handcuff you. But what I was getting ready to say is that's with two officers. Yeah. While I'm tasing, the other officer should be right up going on getting this guy and handcuffing him as I'm tasing him. Okay, because his muscles are locked up with the taser. That's when I can go ahead and maneuver your arms and get them behind your back and get your handcuffed. So I would have never probably wouldn't have used that taser when I'm sitting there all by myself behind some house with no cover or nothing. And when you use the taser, you're going to get medically cleared anyway. Okay.
Right.
So if you did fall and you hurt yourself, you're going to get medically cleared. That was a standard with use of a taser, is you had to get medically cleared right after you use that taser. But that's the purpose of the taser, is to physically lock you up so that you can't hurt nobody. You see what I'm saying? Basically, and we can get you cuffed.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with James. You know, he says, you know, if he had no cover, hands on is risky for both sides. Yes.
Yeah.
Insist on compliance using tools you have. Yeah, correct. I mean, for us and the state trooper, I wouldn't have went behind the house unless I called for another unit, maybe kept a safe distance from him.
Good point.
Until I got another trooper on scene. Because we roll by ourselves. My shift partner could have been, 15, 20 minutes away, maybe 30 minutes away, depending on what side, because I patrol 3 cities. So, it may be a situation where I don't have time to wait for my cover unit to get there. I had to take action now. So situation on things like that would dictate, but 99.9% of the time you're gonna wait till you get backup. Like say for this instance here, when you're going to deploy that taser. Let's see. Mr. Tone says he's going to play devil's advocate here. Doesn't this look like the Trayvon Martin incident without the final ending? What do you say about that, Mike?
No, because the Trayvon Martin incident was dealing with another civilian with no real authority to go hands-on with any suspect. You see what I'm saying? This was a clearly uniformed police officer giving commands to as far as he know, a possible burglary suspect. You see what I'm saying? Based on the actions. So I really can't compare those two. Trayvon Martin didn't have to listen to that citizen. Trayvon Martin didn't have to follow any commands that citizen was giving him. You see what I'm saying?
And the neighborhood watch has no legal or any sworn officer authority.
Right.
So that this is 2 totally different situations right here.
Yeah, I would agree. And plus, even if you were neighborhood watch, one of the first things I used to teach neighborhood watch. I used to have neighborhood watch meetings and instruct people on neighborhood watch issues. So one of the first things I would always encourage people not to do is get physical with anybody or go hands-on with anybody. The most I'm going to tell a neighborhood watch person to do is, if you can safely do so, follow the person and see where he's going, just enough to give us, the responding officers, information that we need to deal with that person. So yeah, I can't really compare this to the Trayvon Martin case. This was clearly a uniformed officer where this person should have complied and just followed instructions. Now, for me, if I was the officer, I'm gonna, as I said before, I'm going to explain to you why I'm contacting you, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell me, hey, is this your girlfriend's house? Let's knock on the door, see if she come to the door. If she's home, she can come to the door. And if you're giving me information that is adding up to, yeah, okay, that makes sense, there's no problem here. Okay, thanks for being cooperative with me, sir. I'm gonna go ahead and let you go and get on out of here. You know what I'm saying? But this didn't happen that way. This kid chose not to do anything that this officer was telling him to do, because in his mind, the only thing he was thinking is, you can't do nothing to me. I have a right to be back here. That's the wrong way to think. To all my teenagers out there, that's the wrong way to think when you are contacted by a police officer. The first thing you need to have is, let me stop. Let me hear what this officer is telling me to do so that I can explain myself of what I'm doing here. Don't have an attitude that, I don't need to explain myself to you. I don't need to do what you're telling me to do, because you don't know what's in that officer's head. You see what I'm saying? That officer might look at you as a suspect and might look at you as, this is somebody who could hurt me, or this is somebody who is in commission of a crime here, so I need to do something about it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Hey, real quick, y'all, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button for us. If you're over on YouTube, just go ahead and hit that like button for us. If you're on Facebook, hit that like button over on Facebook for us, and then jump on over to YouTube and hit it again, and share this out so we can get into the YouTube algorithm here, so our video goes out far and wide throughout the United States and hopefully throughout the world.
Yeah.
So the question is tonight, folks, did this officer act reasonably? Do you feel what he did was justifiable? If so, please drop us a comment down below and let us know. It could. The thing about policing, every officer is going to do something differently. But as long as you're within compliance of your
Department policy.
department policies and your SOPs, then did he do anything? Did he violate policy or procedure?
Well,
and the mom too. She's now the young man, the teenager is biracial. So the mother, who is white, is automatically making this about race. Again, I mean, that's from what we've seen in this video, it had nothing to do with race.
I mean, could you argue that would this officer stop this guy, or would he have followed this guy, or thought it was suspicious if this was a white kid walking in the back of the house? Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know this officer. I don't know if that added to his suspicions or not. I have no idea. But the point is, no matter what was in his mind, he chose to contact this kid in the back of this house. Yeah. And I can see a reason why he would do that. It's reasonable to me that you might think that that's suspicious. Sure, that you might think that. You see what I'm saying? So based on those things, I can, would I have followed somebody in the back of the house? Well, fortunately, the agency I worked for, we had cover units were there within a couple of minutes usually. You know what I'm saying? So the first thing I would have done is call for cover. First of all, I wouldn't have went back there all by myself. Okay, I would have called for cover, and then I would have locked that house down. We would have looked on, made sure we had some kind of perimeter set up so that I knew that this guy went into the backyard. I would make contact at the house with someone in the house to say, hey, we saw somebody go in your backyard. Are they supposed to be there? And then at that point, if I would have made contact with somebody and say, yeah, that's my boyfriend or something. Oh, okay. So everything's cool. And that would have been the end of that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, in this case, had this kid did exactly what the officer was telling him to do and explained himself why he was there and allowed the officer an opportunity to make contact with somebody in the house to confirm his story, none of this would have happened. He wouldn't have got tased or none of that stuff. He got tased because he was doing something that was suspicious to the officer and he was not complying, which raised that level of suspicion. Right. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, what you think?
I believe he also had like a cell phone or something in his hand, and the officer, I think, was trying. I don't think you seen it in the video, but in the article I read, the mom said he had a cell phone in his hand, and she was saying, well, could he have dropped the cell phone, put the cell phone down? Yeah, maybe the officer thought it could have been a weapon. Of course, we know how we've seen reports come out that cell phones were being converted into single shots. So
stuff like that.
Can a cell phone be used as a weapon? Absolutely. So could that been his reason to pull his taser out? Could have been. I agree with James. He said, with all we know at this time, action seems reasonable. The juvenile chose to escalate the situation, and that's correct.
Exactly. That's correct.
Even though the teenager wasn't, yelling and screaming and raising his voice, he wasn't listening. Once you, and that's a form of resisting too, because you're not complying. I mean, I'm giving you commands, you're not doing what I'm asking you to do. And so he escalated.
You're not answering any questions. What are
Right.
you doing back here? He didn't answer any questions, or not answering questions with any satisfactory answers. You see what I'm saying?
He wasn't giving any answers that gave the officer a warm and fuzzy that, okay, this kid belongs back here.
Right. And remember, folks, that's really what it's all about. It's not about the officers harassing me. That officer's just making sure you ain't a burglar and everything's on the up and up. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what I would expect an officer in my neighborhood to do.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I've stopped folks or I'm at a 7-Eleven or something, and I see something that looks maybe suspicious. I'll go over and check it out, ask a few questions. Oh no, we just this, that. Oh, okay, you need any help? No, we good. True, appreciate it though. All right, cool, no problem. And I leave.
That's it. Right.
That's it. Now, if I get into a situation and they start giving me red flags, like you ain't supposed to be back here behind the store, off to the side of the store, up to no good, then I'm gonna start probing more. I'm gonna ask more questions. I'm gonna call for another unit. So that's the whole point of the acronym of CALM, right? You comply, you answer the question, let's move on. You're doing these things, giving that that officer, the warm and fuzzy, the satisfaction. Okay, you have a legitimate reason of being here. The officer leaves.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what would have happened here. If this kid would have explained, hey, this is my girlfriend's house. You know what, officer? You can knock on the door. I can knock on the door. She should come to the door. I can give her a call real quick. She'll come down. The officer would have saw that, okay, this is your girlfriend. You supposed to be here. That would have been the end of it. All right, see you later.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That would have been it.
My mom says, well, the young man was in the wrong because he could have complied with the police. Absolutely right, Mom. That's my mom, y'all. Y'all say hi. That's what it boils down to. I mean, my parents always used to tell us, and Mike's mom used to tell us to obey. You got, when grown folks talking to you, or somebody in a position of authority is talking to you, you obey. You don't talk back. You listen to what they say, that you answer their questions, and that's it. I mean, I'm not understanding why we had to take these things to the next level. And we all know the outcome of these things. And we wonder why we get into an uproar, we burn our cities down, we looting, robbing, and stealing. If CALM is going to help take power, I would say, away from the officer doing something stupid to you.
That's the whole purpose of teaching CALM. That's the whole purpose of that. Is I'm not even going to argue about whether or not I'm not even going to argue about racial profiling or if racism runs rampant through the law enforcement. Okay, for the sake of discussion, all that, let's just throw all that in there and say, okay, it is what that there you go. That's that, and that's that. The things that we are trying to tell citizens is, no matter what kind of officer you come across, if you do these things, you can go home. You see what I'm saying? That's really what it's about. It's trying to get out of that mindset of, no, you harassing me, officer, so I don't have to follow your commands. Right. No, you need to follow those commands so you're not escalating that contact any more than it has to be. That officer can only do so much to you. He can either arrest you, he can either give you a ticket. Okay. And if he's going to stop and detain you, he can either arrest you or give you a ticket. Okay. Yeah. Or just give you a warning and let you go. That's the most that officer can do to you. But if you start doing things, go ahead, Corey.
No, I was just saying, it's three things, like you just said. For us, you had the right to arrest them, issue a summons, or give them a warning. There's 3 things the officer can do.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
And when you're complying, now you may still get the summons. That's what we call a ticket. You may still get the summons, right? But you still get to go on. You're moving on, right?
Right.
You argue your case in court, not on the side of the road, right? Now, if the kid would have just complied and did all these things, and if he felt this whole thing was unjustifiable, that he was being racially profiled, then you know what? You're going to have the officer's name and badge on the ticket if he would have gave him a ticket for anything, which he really was no need to do it. Let's just say he did give him one for trespassing. All right. You go to court, you can argue your case in court, get a lawyer. Lawyers will love to take some of these cases like this, a racial profile, and you walk away with a pocket full of money if the courts rule in your favor. But you do it right. Comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. Do it right. Everybody goes home. You take that power away from the officer from doing something stupid to you.
Yeah,
all right, because
that's what's most important.
Right.
Is there's a right way to do it. As those teenagers out there, I would never encourage you to be confrontational with police. If they detain you, okay, yes sir, no sir, whatever you need. Don't do anything that would cause them to have to escalate their contact with you. If I tell you to put your hands behind your back, put your hands behind your back. Don't give me a reason to have to force you to put your hands behind your back. See, those officers have already made up their minds that, okay, you're not following my commands, so I'm going to have to force you to follow my commands. That's what officers are supposed to do. Otherwise, they wouldn't have any authority at all. Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be the end of that, and you might as well get rid of police. We all know that's not smart. Okay. So we just want to make sure that citizens, when they come in contact with officers, whether or not those officers are racist or not, doesn't really matter. Okay. What matters is they follow any commands that are given to them so that they can go home. Okay. That's what's important. We're trying to tell you why officers do some of the things they do. We're trying to tell you what would raise red flags to an officer who is making contact with you. And we're trying to tell you how you should respond to those officers so that you can either get a ticket or get a warning and get released and go home.
That's it.
You see what I'm saying? That's it.
That's
now,
it.
If you're a criminal and you committing crimes, in my opinion, all bets are off. You see what I'm saying? You're gonna get you should get. If I was a citizen, that's the type of police officers I want my community is to be looking for suspicious activity like that. You see what I'm saying? Because my guard might always be down sometimes.
I mean that's what it's all about: crime prevention, right?
Crime prevention, right?
Crime prevention to make sure your neighborhoods are safe, and that's what the officers trying to do. I mean, he did, however, he was a Trooper of the Year or something last year, a couple of years ago. So I mean, he's got a good record, and I can tell you, I mean, you got to have a squeaky clean record like that to get that, at least here in my state. Now I'm not bragging on myself, but I was voted Trooper of the Month one time, and I mean that's, man, you got to have your ducks in a row. I mean, like, no complaints, no everything, paperwork, court appearances, everything is in the row. I mean, that's a high honor to receive. So, to think that this guy is going to go out here and just throw all that away, could he still be a butthole and do something stupid? Yeah, he could. I mean, we're all human. We all fall short of the glory of God. But I don't think in this day and time officers are walking on a thin line anyway, just to go out here and just to do something stupid. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
You know
like you said a little bit ago, crime prevention. That's part of an officer's job too, is crime prevention. You see somebody suspiciously walking around the back of somebody's house, you might want to contact them. You see what I'm saying? And it's in this case, since he did, I can't say that was unreasonable for him to think, number one, it was suspicious, and number two, I should go and investigate to see make sure this person's supposed to be back there. That's all. You see what I'm saying?
That's it.
And even if you say, well, I only think this is suspicious because this guy is black. Okay. Well, when you get contacted by that officer who feels that way, you need to make sure you follow all instructions and try to show this officer that, okay, I have a right to be here. This is how I have a right to be here. You can make contact with somebody in the house and we can easily remedy this situation. Instead of me just saying, screw you, I don't have to listen to nothing you saying. I don't have to follow nothing you telling me to do. Don't do that. Don't do that. You see what I'm saying? And you got the racism aspect, which is there or not. But in addition to that, you still have the law enforcement crime prevention side of it, where that still exists. You still have officers still have to do their jobs to prevent crime and address crime and investigate those incidents where crime might be occurring. They still have that responsibility, that job. You see what I'm saying? No matter if you're a racist cop or not. And I'm just throwing that out there because you have a lot of people who just blanketly say every white cop is racist. You see what I'm saying? And sometimes they even say that about black cops. So black cops can get it just as worse. Bad you see
we get called a lot of other
in my opinion, it's neither here nor there. This is what you need to do when you get contacted by police in a given situation. We want to make sure you're safe as a citizen and can go home. That's it.
That's the most important thing,
That it is.
You ended up in handcuffs, badly hurt, or end up dead is not what we want. Like I said, this is the whole reason why I came to Mike to do this YouTube channel with me, because I get so sick and tired of seeing incidents that should not end up the way that they do. And it's time to take a stand and say enough is enough. And this is why I came with the acronym of CALM. I showed it to Mike. Mike fell in love with it. And this is where we are today, because we want this to stop. Nobody should have to, your interaction with law enforcement should not end up in somebody getting hurt or killed. It should not. No, like Mike says, no matter what type of officer you get, you should not end up being hurt or killed, or the officer should not end up being hurt or killed. Enough is enough. So let's stay calm, y'all. Let's stay calm. Let's do what we know we're supposed to do, right? It works. It goes on both sides, on the law enforcement side and on the citizen side. We live in the same community. We got to get along, and we have to work together. If a crime has been committed, it's that officer's duty to handle that situation. And crime prevention is one of our duties to prevent crime from happening. So hit that like button, hit that share button, and hit that subscribe button if you're new to our channel. We thank you for joining us this evening, and we hope you enjoyed this. We hope you got something out of it. Again, leave us a comment below. Let us know what type of content you would like for us to do. Mike and I are trying to put together a little town hall here on YouTube. We do a live. So if you'd like to jump on that with us, hit us up via email. Put the email up here real quick at Brothas-in-law21@gmail.com. Let us know. Mike, what was the dates we had set for that?
We're going to do 2 shows if necessary. One on the 13th of this month and one on the 20th of this month, November.
Okay.
And I also reposted something on Facebook where I had changed the wording. I had said respond to this email, but that could mean anything. So I said respond to this email by typing interested, in quote the word interested. Just type that, and then we can get in contact with you. That way we can confirm that you are interested in participating in the show. Real low key. It's just a discussion, open discussion about anything, police related or how your community is being policed or what you should do in any given situation. You know, we want people to feel comfortable when they come on. It's nothing intimidating about what we're trying to do. You have a few people on and just have a little open discussion about policing in your neighborhoods and try to answer any questions you might have. That's all. So you can either email us that, or you can respond on the Facebook post by saying interested, and we'll get in touch with you and get you all hooked up.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim, for joining us. Appreciate everybody for joining us. Tone, I saw you on there. Thanks, Mrs. Taylor. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys. We appreciate you guys so much. Please share this out to everybody. And let's get on board, man. Let's start this conversation, because if we don't fix this, it's only going to get worse. We all have a responsibility, law enforcement and citizens. So we need to come together and make this bridge work. So,
and also real quick, you know, we're definitely not sitting up here saying that, oh, there's nothing wrong with law enforcement or nothing like that. We're definitely not saying that. Okay. But our show is, we want to target citizens because we want them to know what to do in given situations when dealing with police officers. That's all. You see what I'm saying? So that's it.
Yeah. So until next week, y'all be blessed. Enjoy your weekend. Please keep my daughter in prayers again, like I asked you in the beginning of the show. Give her strength and courage moving forward, and her kids. And we'll see y'all next week, same time, same sandbox.
All right, peace out.
Peace.